Hey friends, today we're going to explore another little part about area. So remember, a rectangle is a figure with 4 sides and 4 corners. The sides are referred to as the length and the width. So whenever we are finding the area, one thing you can do is multiply the width times the length to get the area. And remember, area is the space inside the shape. We practiced where we would count up the units, 1, 2, over here for the width, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 units over here for the length. And when we would find the area of this shape, we would go ahead and multiply the length times the width, 4 times 2, to give us 8 square units. Another way we practiced yesterday was with the distributive property. Whenever, instead of doing 6 times 7, we can break that 7 off into 5 and 2. We're still doing 7 because 5 and 2 is 7, right? But we can actually just break that apart, taking a look like this, because these 2 equal still 7, but we're breaking this apart right down here, and we have 5 here and 2 here. We're still multiplying 6 times 5 and 6 times 2. That gives us 30 and 12. Adding up 30 plus 12 would give us 42 square units, which would be the area for this. So we know 6 times 7 is 42, so we could have just done it that way, or we could have also used the distributive property, and this is the way we could use the distributive property, by breaking that bigger number, 7, off into 2 smaller parts that we know, like 5s and 2s. I love multiplying by 5s and 2s, some of my favorites. It makes it a little bit easier. And remember, this is just a strategy. You don't have to use it if it doesn't make sense to you. You can still just add up all of the squares, or you can just do length times width. Now today we're going to talk a little bit about how some figures can be broken apart into 2 or more rectangles. So if we have a funky looking shape like whoop whoop, this guy, here are 3 ways you can break this figure apart into actual rectangles. So we can go right there. So we have one rectangle and another. We can break it apart going this way, where we have one rectangle and another. Or we can break it apart this way, and this way we actually have 2 squares in a rectangle, okay? Oh, and this one's a square over here too. So really quick, whenever we're finding the area of a funky sided shape like this, a funky looking shape, what you can do is you can break this apart into rectangles that we already know, that we can just do the length times the width to get that. And then we would add up this amount and this amount to get the area, or we could add up this amount and this amount to get the area, or we can add up this amount, and this amount to get that area. So let's see how we're going to do that. For example, this diagram shows the dimensions of the living room and dining area of Mr. Klein's apartment. We're going to find the total area of both rooms. So we have the living room and the dining room. So I'm going to break this apart, and I'm going to take a look at the length times the width of each of them. So I know that 3 times 2 would give me 6 square yards. And I know that this length times this width would be 5 times 4 to give me 20 square yards for the inside of that. And now notice I did not use this because this one is only 3 right here. Okay, and notice that I did not use this right here because that one's only 7, or that one's 7, and that's for like the whole distance. And so we only want the distance from here and here, okay, and then here and here. All right, and then once we find the area of those 2 rectangles, we would simply just add it up. So 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 5 times 4, which is 20. And I would add that up to give me 26 square yards. Okay. All right, and so this just shows you a little bit more of what they did. So they did the 2 times the 3, and this activity, this part over here talks a little bit about 4 times the 5, okay? Because remember, we're looking for the length times the width, and remember, this 3 right here does not give us the whole length, so we need to have the whole length, which is actually this side, and this whole width down here, okay? So the length times the width, all right, which is why we didn't do 7 either. Okay? All right, friends, we're going to go ahead and practice this a little bit for homework tonight and continue practicing it a little bit more tomorrow. Great job.